Look at these. I pulled them from my comment section last week. Different videos touching two different subjects, but same dismissal script. When the analysis lands somewhere uncomfortable, the first response is not, hey, you got this wrong, or this particular stat is wrong, you got this fact wrong. It is, who's paying you? It's a reflex. Blame the observer to avoid the argument. And it is not just the comment section habit. It has become the entire survival strategy of India's opposition. The dismissal usually tries to fit you into one of the three buckets. Whether you are a religious bigot, you are a brainwashed fool, or you're just bought outright. Three different labels, one single goal. Make sure the actual argument never has to be touched. Here is the puzzle I'm trying to understand. A political party that has been around over 140 years, a party that governed India for most of its time as a free country, a party that won the largest single mandate in Indian electoral history in 1984. Today, the same party can barely stand on its own. How does a party that dominant fall this far? And why hasn't anything changed in about 40 years of time? That's the case study we are going to take a look at today. But before we get into it, a quick disclosure. I am not Indian. I grew up in India, lived there until I was 24, emigrated to UK. India is not my permanent home anymore, but I still have strong family connections and I visit often for long stretches. So all I wanted to say is I'm Indian at heart and I'll always be. I don't have a vote in India, but I do have one question and data to ask that question honestly. Here is why that question matters. India is the world's largest democracy. A healthy democracy needs a very strong and capable opposition. Someone who can challenge the ruling party, someone who can pull them back when they drift off course. In my observation, India doesn't have one right now. To explain my point of view, I'll take you through some numbers. Watch these. 1984, 415 seats. 1989, 197 seats. 1999, 114 seats. 2009, 206 seats. The last time they crossed 200 on their own. 2014, 44 seats. 2019, 52 seats. 2024, 99 seats, needing 25 other parties to even look like a threat. So that's 40 years, 315 seats lost. That's not a slump, that's a collapse. Now, a fair point. Congress does not contest as many seats they used to because of alliances nowadays. In 1984, they fought nearly every seat. In 2024, only 328. So the raw seat count looks worse than it is, right? Wrong. Because not contesting every seat is the decline. You don't share seats because you're strong. You share them because you're afraid that you fight alone, you will lose. So they went from being a default India-wide party to a regional player with a famous name. That's the puzzle we opened with. The size of the fall isn't in dispute. The numbers are numbers, you can see them. What's in dispute is why. What is the reason for the fall? So how does a party that big explain this fall this fast? And how does the explanation hold up for analysis? We are going to take a look at three layers. First, the excuses you hear. Second, the actual failures data suggests. Third, we will try to come to a conclusion or a verdict using both. But before we get into the excuses, let me tell you a story. It'll save us a lot of time later. Picture a film director who has spent years making a movie. Big budget, famous cast, confident pitch. They release it on a Friday. On Monday, the box office numbers come in. The film fell flat. Half-empty theaters across the country. Reviews are scathing and unforgiving. The lead actor goes silent on social media. Now, what does the director do? If the director is honest with themselves, they sit with the data, right? They watch the film again and again. They ask themselves, what did we miss? Was the script right? Was the script weak? Did the marketing miss the audience? Were we making a film we wanted to make instead of the film people wanted to watch? These are serious questions. But that's rare, right? That's a rare director's characteristic. Most do the opposite. They go on a podcast and start pointing fingers at audience. Audience today don't have the seriousness needed to watch quality cinema. They don't have the taste. They have been corrupted by Marvel, Disney, and so on and so forth. The reviews are bought, the distributors sabotaged us, and the release date was rigged. These are the excuses you usually hear. Some of these complaints might be partly true. Maybe a couple of reviewers had vendettas. Maybe the release window was bad. Maybe the distribution was thin. But every minute the director spends on these complaints and excuses is a minute they are not asking the question that actually matters. Did we make the right film? That is the position of Indian opposition has been in 40 years. Voters choose someone else, and the Congress reaches to the same basket of excuses they usually use. Same list every single time. The film keeps flopping, the voter keeps choosing alternatives, nothing changes. There are 4 standard explanations the opposition uses to explain their decline. Let's take each one seriously and then look at what they add up to. Defense number 1. The voter has been brainwashed. They're essentially idiots, captured by superior media machine. But here is the problem. Congress governed India roughly for 50 of the last 75 years. They had a presence in every panchayat, in every nook and corner of the country. If after 5 decades of total institutional dominance, you can't build a communication network to compete, that isn't a media problem. That is a product problem. Good communication only works when there is something real to talk about. BJP campaigns on logistics, roads, gas, water, housing, so on and so forth. Things voters can see and touch. If the opposition is struggling to be heard, the question isn't who is loudest. The question is, what have you been building or planning to build that is worth talking about? Defense number 2. The machines are rigged. This went to the Supreme Court in April 2024. The court dismissed every petition. Across every election, they found exactly one mismatch, traced to a human error by a polling officer in 2019. That is the entire evidence base. Now look at the results these rigged machines delivered in May 2026. In Tamil Nadu, actor Vijay's TVK, a brand new party, emerged as the single largest, breaking 59 years of Dravidian Front dominance. In Kerala, the Congress-led UDF secured a landslide, ending decades of left rule. Wait, are they the same machines though? Yes, same machines. Same machines that delivered a BJP majority in West Bengal and Assam in May 2026. The rigged argument did not hold up in court, and the data in 2026 makes it impossible to sustain. It is time to move on from this one, for sure. Defense number 3. The agencies, ED, CBI, the washing machine effect. Okay, whether the pressure is real is a debate for another day. But for this case, or this case study, the issue is in the timeline. The Congress decline did not start in 2014. They lost in 1989, 1996, 1998, 1999. You can't blame an agency strategy from 2014 for a collapse that began in 1989. Defense number 4. The boundaries are drawn against us. Delimitation is a real concern for 2029, no contest there. But boundary lines don't explain why a party stops contesting half of the country. They don't explain why you have gone from 414 seats in 1984 to 99 in 2024. Lines changed, but party also collapsed. They're not the same thing. Notice the pattern here. Every one of these explanations puts the problem outside the party. The voter, the machines, the agencies, the lines. It's the similar kind of reflex that says audience have no taste. But when you decide the problem is somewhere you can't reach, you have nothing to fix. This isn't a strategy. This is just a prayer hoping that things will turn around in the future. So if we stop looking at the audience and start looking at the script inward, what do we actually find? We find 3 structural failures. Not the things that happened to the party, but the things party did to itself. Let's peel back the defense and look at the first one. Failure number 1, the appeasement. In 80s, Congress chose to win by stacking side deals with community leaders. Hindus on these terms, Muslims on these. But every side deal has a price to pay because someone else gets the bad deal out of it. Example, take Sabha case in 1985. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of a divorced woman's right to maintenance. A year later, Congress used its massive majority in the parliament to override the court's decision, just to appease the religious hardliners. It signaled that law wasn't equal, it was negotiable. The BJP did not have to create polarization. They just had to point at script Congress had already been using for decades. Failure number 2, no mission. Appeasement is what you fall back when you have nothing universal to offer. Today, Congress has roughly 3 slogans. None of them are missions. Number 1, save the Constitution. That really means is we are not BJP. It defines who they are against, not what they stand for. Dr. Ambedkar himself said in 1949 that the document was designed to be amended by 2/3 of majority. Using a majority to change Constitution isn't a threat to Constitution. It is the architecture of democracy. Then there is social justice. Look at the Women Reservation Bill. In 2010, Congress let it die because they refused an OBC subquota. In 2023, BJP passed it, and the Congress suddenly demanded for the OBC subquota that their own 2010 bill lacked. And then, in April 2026, the Constitution 131 amendment was brought, which would have unfrozen the delimitation and made that reservation operational for 2029. The India bloc voted no. The bill failed. 3 positions on one bill, nothing changed on that, for 15 years. That isn't a mission, that is pure obstruction. Okay, finally, secularism. This is my favorite one. I think it's most overused word in India right now. If secularism actually means one law for every citizen, then the Uniform Civil Code, like the one enacted in Uttarakhand, is the definition of it. So when BJP says one nation, one law, the old version of secularism starts to sound like it's a defense of different rule books based upon the communities you belong to. I don't think Congress any longer owns that word. So, without a mission, you fall back to alliances. We have seen this. In 1977, Anti-Indira coalition won 295 seats. 2 years later, it evaporated. Why? Because the only thing they agreed on was who they hated. When that coalition broke, the only group survived, interestingly, is the Janata Sangh, the precursor to the BJP. They had their own ideology, their own cadre. They have shaped the message, what they stand for, went into public. They weren't just not Indira. They have their own identity and they projected it. To build a mission, you need builders. But failure number 3 is Congress keep leaking talent. Look at the names. Mamata Banerjee lost Bengal in May 2026, but built a 15-year dynasty. Sharad Pawar, Himanta Biswa Sharma, these are people who actually know how to win elections. Congress operates like a monarchy while pretending to be a meritocracy. If you haven't been family adjacent, you hit a ceiling. In any industry, when your top talent leaves, you try to fix the culture. But Congress just calls them traitors and waits for the next election. But as we saw in West Bengal and Assam in May 2026, the wait is getting longer and longer with every election cycle. When you put these failures together, an empty mission, fragile coalitions, and the talent drain that never stops, a comeback looks nearly impossible. But to see what a real turnaround looks like, you have to look at the other side in the past. Let me explain. In 1984, the BJP was reduced to just 2 seats. Just 2. They were practically irrelevant. But they did not spend next decade calling voters stupid or machines are rigged. They went to work. They built a ground level army and a coherent ideology and a clear script for what they wanted India to be, how they want to shape it, what they stand for. Very dominant message. It took time, but by 1999, they were running the country. That is what a turnaround looks like. That is the difference between building and deflecting. The BJP contested more and more seats every cycle, even though when they were losing. Congress spent 40 years doing the opposite, retreating into alliances, contesting less and less number of seats every cycle, and blaming the room as they fell from 414 seats to 99. Before blaming the agencies, the boundaries, the opposition has to face the director's dilemma. Did we actually make the film anyone wanted to see? Nothing moves until they answer that honestly. Every great turnaround in world's democratic history started with the same 7 words. We got it wrong. Here is the fix. Not the voter is brainwashed, not the machines or rigged. Just we got it wrong. But these weren't the words the party has been willing to say so far, and I don't think they will. This is what we are going to do differently. This is what we are actually going to build. This is what we stand for. Until those words are written by the people who actually have the power to write them, the theaters will stay empty. The director will keep blaming the audience, and the movies will keep flopping. Honestly, at this point, I'm not holding my breath. You can't fix a problem you have already decided it belongs to someone else. If the opposition wants to win, they have to stop being a waiting room and start behaving like a government. They have to have a plan for the country. They have to offer alternatives that are credible. I hope my argument made sense to you. If you managed to follow the logic so far, please hit that subscribe because we have a lot to discuss in the future. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, dig deeper.